Hello, class. Today's video is going to be about becoming a close reader. As we go through this video, you are going to see slides that look like this. So there's the pause button in the top left corner and the go button in the bottom right-hand corner. When you see these types of slides, I want you to pause the video, do whatever on the slide, and then move on. So on this slide, these are the list of supplies that you need. You need your Ebola article, your Herodotus Father of History handout, a highlighter, and a pencil. So if you don't have these items, pause the video, go get them. When you come back, unpause it and keep going. So checkpoint number 1. I want you to look at your Ebola article. In the directions, it said to mark evidence of close reading. On the back of your Herodotus handout, I want you to write down 3 examples of your close reading evidence from the Ebola article. So did you write in the margins? Did you highlight? Whatever you did, I want you to write down 3 examples of what you did. So pause the video, do those 3 things, and then you can keep going. When you're close reading, your reading starts even before you read. First, you're going to read the titles, the subtitles, any publication information, and you're going to see what those things might tell you about what the article is going to be about. So if you look at the Herodotus handout, the title is Herodotus, Father of History. So based on that title, we know that Herodotus is probably a man because it's referring to him as a father, and he probably has something to do with history. Also, before you read, you're going to look at how the text is formatted. So are there any headings? How is the text broken up? In this article, there are 4 different paragraphs, but there are no headings. What is annotating? Annotating is usually the evidence of a close reading. So the official definition I have here is marking the text to identify important information and record the reader's ideas. When you annotate, you're writing down your reactions to the text. So when you're reading a novel or when you're reading an article, do you ever think to yourself, oh, that's really interesting, or that makes absolutely no sense to me, or I should look this up later? So those things that are going through your head as you're reading, that's what you're writing down. So some examples of questions you might think about while you're reading. Are you confused? Do you have any questions? Does that sentence remind you of something from science class? Have you heard that term before? Where? Do you agree or disagree with what the author is saying? What do you think is going to happen next? How does this connect to what you are learning in social studies? So these are just some sample questions. While you read, you're identifying who the article is about, when does the article occur, and where does the article take place. Checkpoint number 2. I want you to read through the article Herodotus, Father of History, and as you're reading, highlight the who, when, and where of the article. So pause the video, do those things. When you're done, unpause the video and keep going. While you read, you are also doing something called marginalia. Marginalia is just a fancy word for notes in the margin. So what kinds of things should you be writing in the margin? You can write summary. So after you read a paragraph, just write a few words summarizing what that paragraph was about. You can also write predictions, opinions. You can connect what you're reading to prior knowledge or information from other classes. You can write your reflections or reactions. You can also write questions. Which brings us to checkpoint number 3. I'm going to show the previous slide again, and you're going to copy the list of different types of margin notes. So pause this video, and all the bullet points beneath, what should you write in the margin? I want you to write those down. So pause the video, write those things down. When you're done, you can unpause the video and proceed. What we're looking at here is an example of how I annotated the Herodotus article. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the paragraph aloud to you and think through what I wrote in the margins. Herodotus was one of the first people to try to explain the past. So on the left-hand side, I said he must have lived a long time ago, because if he was the first person, that was, I'm guessing, a long time ago. For this, he became known as the Father of History. So on the left-hand side, I wrote, this is where the title comes from, because we've talked about Herodotus and the Father of History. So we know the title is referring to his nickname. Many historians have been uncomfortable with this label because history written by Herodotus has many flaws. On the right-hand side, I have an asterisk, and I wrote, how does it have flaws? Nevertheless, with his histories, Herodotus created a new form of study. Indeed, the name of this field, history, was coined by him. In his native Greek, it means inquiries or research. So on the left-hand side, I wrote, history is not usually considered research, it's considered stories. Usually when we hear the word research, we think of science. We don't usually think of research and history as being connected. Not much is known about the life of this first historian. He was born in 484 BC in Halicarnassus, a city in Asia Minor that was settled by the Greeks. So this last sentence was interesting for two reasons. On the left-hand side, I wrote that Asia Minor equals Anatolia in modern-day Turkey. We've covered this earlier in the year. Also on the right-hand side, I wrote that I didn't know the Greeks lived in Anatolia. Because remember that Anatolia and Greece are not the same. They're separated by the Aegean Sea. So how did the Greeks get to Anatolia? His family was well off, but suffered at the hands of a tyrant who ran the government of that city. They were forced to leave for an island while Herodotus was still young. So I underlined tyrant and wrote who was that tyrant on the left, and I circled island and wrote which island because it's vague. Later in life, he returned to his home to help overthrow the tyrant, but he did not stay. At this point, you may pause the video and write down the notes I have, or you can write down your own. Checkpoint number 4. You are going to reread the Herodotus article. This time, you're going to take notes in the margin as I modeled in the last slide. When you are done reading and taking notes in the margins, unpause the video. As a close reader, your job is not done once you finish reading. There are things you have to do after reading as well to further understand the text. First, you're going to underline important information such as main ideas, thesis statements, topic sentences. And then you're going to do a self-check. You're going to read through the annotations and reflect on what you wrote. So for points of confusion, can I answer the questions I wrote? If not, where can I find answers? For example, I had written, how does his history have flaws? And it says later that he included unbelievable elements, including actions of the gods. So that's one possible answer to my question. You can also connect it to other classes. So I had said that Asia Minor, we had learned earlier, is also known as Anatolia. You can also ask yourself, do I know what the main idea of the text is? Or how did I feel about the article? Did I agree? Did I disagree? Checkpoint number 5. I want you to go through the article, underline the main ideas. And then I want you to go through the marginalia, and on the back of your paper, answer 2 of the questions you wrote in the margins. And then I want you to write 1 to 2 sentences connecting this reading to what we've learned in chapter 5. So pause the video and do those things. Checkpoint number 6. On the back of the paper, or on a separate sheet of paper, I want you to answer the 3 questions at the bottom of the handout. So look in the bottom right-hand corner of the page and answer those 3 questions. So pause the video and do those questions. And you are now done with the video. I look forward to seeing what you came up with for margin notes and the answers to your questions when we see each other next.